TCU 51, Michigan 45. The TCU Horned Frogs are going to the national championship game. This is Josh Neighbors, Locked On Big 12 podcast, our full reaction to what in the hell just happened. Coming up next.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, guys. So Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast, reacting live to what just happened in the national championship game. TCU defeats Michigan 51-45. The college football playoff, excuse me. What just happened in the college football playoff? TCU defeats Michigan 51-45 in a bonkers, bananas, absolutely insane game. And TCU books their chance to go and play for national title. First of all, guys, girls, whoever you are, grab a beverage. All right, whatever you got. I got some White Claw in here right now. All right, take a sip, take a breath, and enjoy what is happening here. All right, so let's do that first. Delicious. Happy New Year's Eve. Also grab beverage for that. But for the first time in the college football playoff era, the Big 12 will be playing for a national championship. And that is because the TCU Horned Frogs just beat Michigan 51-45 in a bonkers, bananas, crazy back and forth game that embodied everything TCU football has been about from the start of the season. Sonny Dykes, Joe Gillespie, Garrett Riley, the rest of the staff, I mean, down the line, deserve so much credit because I watched this game tonight. I thought the more talented team, the more able team was Michigan, but TCU was the more physical, more willing, more playmaking team. Whenever it was asked of them to do something, they responded and did it. I mean, guys, this was an incredible, monumental football game. This game will, it'll expand beyond what just happened. This game was more than about TCU versus Michigan. This was about teams that are undermanned, undersized, about 3-3-5s, about guys like Max Duggan who are, benched at the start of the season. It's about all of that. All right. It's about what it takes to win at the elite level of college football. Okay. TCU might not win it all this year, but they have taken a step with certain parts that validates so much of what we want to be true about modern college football. We want everybody to have a chance to win. We want everybody to have a shot. And everybody says, oh, you know what? There's some folks who say we should go to 2 teams. We shouldn't go all the way up to 12. Why not back to 2? Because there's normally no more than 2 teams that deserve to play. The team that the team that TCU lost to, Kansas State, today, guys, what happened to them? Got boat raced. Michigan, wire to wire, fantastic all year, and kicked Ohio State's ass in the horseshoe. Guess what? They met something they were not ready for. They were not prepared for this. That they became prepared for it. They kind of manned up later on in the game, but TCU was a step ahead the entire game. And TCU was undermanned, undersized. People have said stuff about the 3-3-5 front, about what it could do against teams like this. Even I have said stuff like that. My prediction was 31-23 Michigan over TCU. And TCU said no, none of that from the get-go. Just how much fun did we have watching that game, having that happen? And in what has been a really disappointing and upsetting and hard bowl season for our conference, for the Big 12 right here on the shirt, right? This kind of capitalizes, this kind of makes things happen here for all of us. And I'm seeing your all's comments right now. We'll get them in as we go along. But this game, this has to make you love college football, right? It made us all think about that Georgia, Ohio State Rose Bowl that we saw, Baker Mayfield in that game. And that was a huge game because that's one of the very few competitive playoff games that we've had to this point of the college football playoff. And it was excellent. It was great. And I see somebody saying Michigan got robbed. Sure. Whatever. There were some calls I did not agree with in this game, but you have to say, like, this was a fantastic football game from start to finish, whatever it matters. Aiden says no Big 12, no defense. Did it matter? Did it matter? When you throw a couple pick sixes, baby, when you throw 2 pick sixes and you hand the team 14 points and you're not good enough executing, does it really matter? This game had it all. It had the errors that you love in college football. It had the playmaking you love in college football. And here's what I will say about this from a TCU perspective. Watching this game, TCU all year has thrived in close contests. They've thrived in the chaos. Think about Texas TCU in control. But what happens? Max Duggan fumbles, and now TCU has to get a first down to ice the game and win that thing, and they did. Every single time tonight when they were pressed due to a Darius Davis botch and then a catch, an Amari DiMercato fumble, and then it's Michigan football. Every single time that happened, TCU responded in a way that was positive for them. And you listen to Sonny Dykes and you hear him talk after the game. And I know some folks, who work with the TCU staff in some different areas and whatnot. This staff, guys, is fantastic. That team was so ready, not just for Michigan, but for whatever happened inside of the game. Think about when you watch what happened in that football game. TCU, whenever that momentum went back the other way, they were always prepared. They were always ready. They always took the shot. They were always ready to rebound. And that played itself out in the contest itself. From wire to wire, this is one of the most fun football games that I've ever watched. I had people texting me off the hook left and right the entire time having fun. I hope all of you all did too. I want to start here. Locked On Big 12 podcast. Obviously, please subscribe to the channel. With our friends, Stephen Smith here says, I hope this changes the perception of the Big 12. The Big 12 has gotten their ass kicked this bowl season. There is no doubt about that. We cannot deny that at all. But, this game has to change something because they're the conference that has not gotten the win in the college football playoff. And they were finally able to get the job done. They were finally able to cross, to cross that threshold, that wire, whatever it was, to get the job done. And it's because of how good the coaching was. And here's the thing, too, that I love about the sport. And this, guys, is just me riffing right now, right? Fire Michigan coaching staff, fair enough. I thought some choices were made by Michigan. But the way college basketball works right now, you can rebound fast because, hey, transfers turn around your team, right? You can recycle a roster pretty quickly. But for football, there's more guys in the field. There's more guys who are behind the guys in the field. There's more depth. It's harder to do that. This same TCU team last year went 5-7. And guess who their best offensive player was last season, in my opinion? Zach Evans. Where is he? Ole Miss. A new coach comes in. A new offensive coordinator comes in. They bring a new defensive coordinator in, Joe Gillespie, right? And Kaz Kazadi comes in as strength and conditioning. Everything changes for TCU. This same group of guys, they benched Max Duggan, whose numbers weren't great tonight, but still made the plays he had to. And this team goes all the way. And let me tell you something about Max Duggan, right? You got to have a guy like this if you want to win football games, if you're not as talented as the next team. 2 plays tonight. The Tay Barber touchdown earlier in the game. He runs away from coverage. He knows where Tay is going. He buys him time, and he hits Tay Barber, who goes underneath for a touchdown. Quentin Johnston, same concept on the inside. Later on in the game, 3-point game, bangs it in there. Quentin Johnston, who in my opinion should be wide receiver 1 all the way for a touchdown. Bad Michigan coverage, whatever. That is absolutely playmaking, that is recognition, that is experience, that is all of those things combined, adding up for a guy like a Max Duggan. Guys, this could be a down year if you want to perceive it that way. But to see a team like TCU get this thing done and go play for a national championship, no matter who the opponent is, it gives life for so many programs. This sport is closing in on itself with the amount of money that is now in the Big Ten, as in the SEC. Yes, the Big 12 got a TV contract, but see how much money that they're making in comparison. The gap is widening. To see TCU beat a Michigan, and just every single time Michigan had an answer, they had an answer again. That is significant for the sport. That is massive. That for the Cincinnatis of the world who are joining, even for the G5 teams of the world who are joining, even the 5-12 matchups that are to come in a 12-team playoff. This is significant. All right. This is all the way what we want this sport to be. On a day where we saw K-State get erased by great players like Will Anderson, but mostly Bryce Young, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, to see this happen on this stage is huge. Guys, the Big 12 has gotten its ass kicked in every single playoff it's been in, except for the Georgia one, and it was a near miss and whatever. But guess what? That team's leaving. For TCU to make the statement, guys, I've said it like a million times. I'm going to say it again. The TCU Horned Frogs are playing for a national championship. If y'all have questions, put them in the chat right now. I love to answer them. Make sure you all subscribe to the channel, Locked On Big 12. Find us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at @JoshNeighbors_. But please subscribe and find this show wherever you all are right now. Also, if you all not a drinking person, fine. If you all have a beverage, raise a glass right now. TCU football. All right, let's talk about some of the comments y'all have in this game. Sonny Dykes didn't even play college football, and now he is the wizard of the Big 12. I love Sonny Dykes. Guys, let's talk about this great comment here from OSUX. The demeanor of Sonny Dykes, when you all watch him on the sideline, he gets heated at the refs. He'll get hot on the sideline, but generally speaking, very in control. Post-game, pre-game interview, and I'll go back to the Baylor game to cite this. They discussed the fire drill field goal that they ran in that situation. Like it, okay, we do this all the time. Yeah, sure, whatever, man. But like, how do you not believe that guy? How do you not understand him? And I think being that relaxed doesn't always work all the time. It depends on how mature your team is. But think about the guys they have on this team. Duggan, Miller, Johnston, Davis, Barber, the Avila offensive line guys, the guys up front. I know they have freshman nose tackle, but still, Dylan Horton tonight. D. Winters tonight. My God, D. Winters, what a freaking game that he played in this game against Michigan. He was all over the place. They made every single play they had to do. And to be honest, I think the game kind of played out to show that Michigan was the better team overall. I think that happened. But still, like, those guys on TCU side made better plays. Trey Hodges-Tomlinson, too aggressive at times. They still were able to overcome some of that stuff and make those plays. So I think that, they had the right mindset heading into this contest as it got started. Once again, leave y'all's questions in the comments, but let's go through kind of what happened in this game, how we got to where we did, because it was a whole heck of a lot. All right. From wire to wire, let's go pillar to post to kind of describe what we just saw with TCU pulling off the first Big 12 win in the history of the college football playoff. This game starts and we see the huge run from Edwards to start this game off. All right. And you're thinking from the start of this game, oh my God, this is no bueno for the Horned Frogs. This is bad. But what does TCU do? They bow up. They absolutely bow up and they get the stop when they need to. And because of that, they're able to, and then once again, Michigan runs a bad play. In that situation, they're able to get the stop. And if you all have heard me before, if you've not, it's all good. If you've heard me before, I've said this. When you give TCU an inch, they take the mile. When you leave a crack in the door for TCU, they kick the door in. What does TCU do? They get the stop there. They're able to, respond pretty easily, obviously, at the beginning of this game. Think about it from the very beginning of this contest. They punt, but then guess what? Pick six on the defensive side of the ball. It's 7-0. Then Michigan punt again. TCU, 12 plays, 76 yards, touchdown. All right, Michigan field goal, interception. We have the fumble, and we have the situation with the ass cheek down on the goal line, if you will. So let's discuss this play. So I thought in the moment and watching replay, it's a touchdown. It's ruled a touchdown on the field. When you all watch that happen, if they're going to overturn that, they must have indisputable video evidence that says that. So in my opinion, on that catch, they must, I think it's his left butt cheek is basically down when he secures the ball. Do I agree with that wholeheartedly? No, I'm not sure I do. But somebody on the officiating crew does agree with that, and they did make that call. So, that is the call on the field. And then we go back and we watch the next play. I mean, why is a backup linebacker in taking that snap? Also, I don't care. A running back, Donovan Edwards from 1 yard out, Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. We saw it in the game. They scored from that distance there too. Touchdown. And I thought that was a poor decision when we saw that in the moment. I really thought that was from Michigan. But guess what? When you give them an inch, they take the mile. Punt again, 21-3. And we go to the end of the half here, guys. Big moment. I thought that Michigan field goal at the end of the half was massive. 18 is much different than 15. 2 scores, much different than 3 scores, obviously. That gap was significant, in my opinion. That 21-9, then TCU interception, then a touchdown for Michigan. It's a 1-score game. But guess what? 6 plays, 75 yards in 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Explosives have been the key for TCU all year. They hit some more of them here. They were able to get that touchdown in 34-16, right? After the pick six, momentum swings back the other way to TCU. But you still felt like they would give it back a little bit because you know what? Pain in the whatever TCU lives. And so naturally, as all TCU games have gone this year, it went back the other way. Michigan scores 34, at that point to 22. TCU answers back 3 plays, 78 yards, 58 seconds. But guess what? 375, 46 the other way. We're changing blows. We're exchanging punches. And then after that, Michigan gets the fumble. Michigan scores a touchdown, 41-38. But I was talking with some buddies tonight while the game was happening. And I said this. I said, guys, TCU wants this thing close. They've lived here all year. This is not this is not new to them. This is not foreign to them. Sure enough, when it was 1-score game, 3 plays, 79 yards, 1 minute and 6 seconds to make this thing 48 to it was a 48-38, right? Field goal there, they settle for. This thing's gonna be close. Michigan gets their touchdown, TCU punts, and guess what happens? That final drive occurs, and maybe targeting. I think it was. I thought that was targeting. I've seen less called for targeting. They have changed targeting rule for sure. For sure, that the targeting rule has to be changed. I thought that was targeting, definitely. But here's what I'll say: the player was aiming not to hit him there. And when a guy is going, the thing that the targeting rule has to change is that rule needs to acclimate to defenders who are trying to hit guys who are going towards the ground, right? So how do you stay squared, chest up, legs down when a guy is going towards the ground without putting your helmet down? How do you hit a guy with your face mask or head up when the guy is going towards the mat? You really can't do it. It's very difficult to do. That's why I think they made that call. I thought it was targeting. I'll be totally honest. The 2 calls tonight, and there was a missed call. That roughing the passer on Johnny Hodges, atrocious. The touchdown, I want to hear some more explanation on that. That call there, I thought was targeting. Now, 25 seconds, 50 yards to go. We'll see. You have a chance at it, though, for sure. I thought Michigan was robbed of a chance there at the end. But that's how football, that's how it works sometimes, right? That's how it kind of goes. But at the end of the game, I mean, TCU they wanted it. They needed it. They had to have it. They got it done. And you could wash, rinse, and repeat that for the Baylor game, the Texas game, any other game you want to pick your game. Kansas game. Had to have it, needed to have it, had it. Any of these games, you guys could go back and pick. All right, so questions now for you all as we kind of head towards the closing, right? Let's see. Where is the guy who said teams with small stadiums are going to play the national championship? Hey, that was not me. That was not me in this situation. Never said that. Would you think the perception of the Big 12 will change if TCU doesn't win the national championship, or does TCU need to win it all to change the perception of the Big 12? I'm not sure they have to. I think because of what we talked about earlier, with the idea that like Sonny Dykes, Garrett Riley, Joe Gillespie. Sonny Dykes was at SMU. Garrett Riley at SMU. Joe Gillespie was at Tulsa. Not big schools, with a roster that went 5-7 in a conference they were picked to finish 8th in, beats Michigan at the end of the year and goes, they're now 13-1. What are they? Title is a title. It'd be massive for the league. But getting there, getting close, accomplishing things, like this is not a Cincinnati moral victory for being there. They beat what I thought was an awesome Michigan team at the end of the. I thought that Michigan team, after watching Ohio State and the way they handled Purdue, like this team for Michigan was one of the best four in the country. And I thought it'd be, and I actually today leading up to this game, I was like, man, is Michigan maybe just as good as Georgia? I was having that thought today about this. Georgia's offensive line does not win the Joe Moore Award this year, feels slighted, whatever. But like, are they on that caliber? That's a question you could ask. And so, if they're on that plane, you can ask yourself that question about where Michigan is. But they beat that team by hook, and this has been TCU's model all year. I've said it a bunch before. By hook or by crook, they get the job done, because you know what? They're calm in the moment. They're always composed. Whether it's a fire drill field goal against Baylor, whether it is defensive stops against Kansas, whether it is last second stuff against West Virginia, TCU, Texas Tech in the fourth quarter, it is close. Texas, they fumble the ball away, make it a one-score game, have to get a first down. They live in that moment. They thrive. And then let's live. They thrive. They thrive in those close games. And so they thrive there because that team is not as talented as most teams before. This is not as talented as a lot of Oklahoma teams that have won the Big 12, right? But with the right recipe, you can get there. And the right mixture, you can get there. So I would say this is great for the Big 12. And I'm wearing the Big 12 shirt right now, proud of the conference, but like, this is more of a message to the rest of college football that shit happens, right? Like, stuff does happen in these games. And Michigan was not as prepared and solid. I mean, you saw guys losing the ball out of bounds early in the game. And I thought TCU's form tackling in this game was phenomenal. It was great. I mean, they were hitting guys the way you teach this thing from day one if you're teaching a youth team on how to tackle. So it's huge for the Big 12. They do not have to win the title to validate anything. It shouldn't be like this win validates a conference. So, Stephen, this is a great question. But like, we should get past that point. That's the goal of us, to get past a point where we're talking about validating conferences. My colleague at SiriusXM, who I'll work with him tomorrow morning, Barrett Salee, was like, this is what happens when Arkansas, a mid-tier SEC team, plays a mid-tier Big 12 team. They thump them. Into the game, what happened? Like, these are these stigmas and perceptions we have to change. The top recruiting schools, guys, Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, they'll always be towards the top, but they can be beat. They can be beat. This Michigan team, very well recruited. A lot of great guys. Blake Corum, who could have been a Heisman finalist, goes down. I thought Donovan Edwards was great in his stead. And this offensive line has been recruited. Joe Moore Award winning back-to-back. gets beat by a 3-3-5 defense, gets beat by a team that went 5-7 last year with a quarterback who was not picked to be the starter for legit reasons at the start of the season. But it can be done under the right circumstances. It definitely can be accomplished. It can be done. That's a big part of this, is that it can be accomplished. The next game is the next game. I really hope, Kendre Miller is available for the title game. I really hope he is. But like that, this is what football is about. It's about depth some too. DeMercado, I thought he'd be number one maybe this year. DeMercado in that game against Tech, catch that big touchdown, didn't play a whole lot. Like that's what depth does for you. And depth at the skill positions, which we mentioned in the preview of this game, really did pay off. Here's a question to you. With Michigan losing to TCU and Big 12 Commissioner Kevin Warren going to the Chicago Bears, what do you see? What do you see the opportunities for the Big 12? Nothing from the Big 10 standpoint. I'm not sure they can really do much with the Big 10. Kevin Warren got hammered. I thought he did a pretty good job. As commissioner. I mean, that contract for television is fantastic for the Big 10. Just check that thing out. I think if we're talking about Big 10 stuff, the conversation more, and look, I'm recording this as the game's going on. Ohio State touchdown against Georgia, Stroud to Marvin Harrison Jr., 31 yards for touchdowns. We're talking right now. That, what happens there, like they're going to keep getting views. I think for Michigan, the question is how to get over the hump. Now, I would say this, Max Duggan took his lumps, played a lot of football. Could JJ McCarthy be the same way? Watch him grow, watch him learn, watch him become a better player. Like that's got to be in play. And that's for a lot of quarterbacks at a lot of plays. Predator Kingdom says TCU and the Natty is a joke. Well, guess what, brother? It's happening. Sorry. This ain't college basketball. I live in Richmond, Virginia. This ain't VCU making a Final Four run. This is legit all the way, wire to wire shit that just happened. I'm cursing tonight. We're having some drinks. It's great. We're doing this entire thing. Look, here you see it, folks. How do you give up 45 points? They expect to compete with Georgia and Ohio State and Georgia. How many did Ohio State score on how did they score on Michigan? TCU got the job, and TCU is better on defense. This person's obviously angry. Predator Kingdom is very angry. Be angry about it. It's fine. TCU's there. And look, whoever they play, they will be the underdog. All right? That is totally fine. Sonny Dykes does not care. And he's not like, we are the underdog, rah, rah, rah. He just doesn't care. He's just more apathetic than that. I mean, that's not who he is at all, right? That's just not the guy he is. When we watch this thing, I want to get some more comments in here about what happened in this game. They bleed just like the rest of us. This is important. Watch the movie Predator. All right. They say in that movie, I forget if it's Stallone or not. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Right? Schwarzenegger, Stallone. It's Stallone, right? Yeah. If it, I know it's Schwarzenegger. Yeah. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Guys, this year, all the teams bleed. Look, there are some years where the teams, they just don't bleed, right? They're war machines. They are Ohio State. They are Georgia. They are, maybe it's Georgia this year. They are Alabama. All right. But this year, Michigan bled. They did. We saw it against Illinois. We saw it against Maryland. They bleed. And guess what? I said this a million times. When TCU smells the weakness, when you give them a crack in the door, they kick the damn thing open. They kick it open every single time. They've kicked it open. All right. Kansas State, they came up just short. But guess what? They rebounded. They were so well coached in this game. They were so well prepared in this game. I had people texting me all night saying how surprised they were at how physical this team was. Guys, Joe Gillespie, 45 points, sure, whatever. But like that team was in the game the whole night. They made the requisite plays. They did what had to be done. The TCU defense might be the team of the night at this point in time. So if Michigan was not 100% ready, and some 4 seeds in the past haven't cracked it, some perceived worst teams in the past haven't cracked that. TCU did. Calls be damned, officials be damned, circumstance be damned, weird field turf be damned. All right, they cracked that. If y'all have more questions, keep sending them our way. We'll answer them before it's over. Officiating was appalling. Yeah, it wasn't great. I would not say that it was, it was great. Hey, this comment. SEC teams, real NFL type football, TCU by humbled in LA. Sure. Missouri lost to Kansas State by 30 some points this year. I mean, what do you keep doing that? Like, the SEC bias is complete crap. Oh, Texas Tech hammered Ole Miss. Oh my God. And Texas Tech was weak up front all year. They were weak up front all season long. All right. But this is why we should not just pander to the top 2 conferences. You have to play the games. You must. No matter how many bad performances we observe, no matter how many times we watch the bad games, there are still St. Peter's versus Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, and there are still TCUs against Michigan's here. 7.5 point favorite, guys. I'm telling you, TCU lives for the close games. They absolutely do. All right. Absolutely do. TCU didn't lose. They beat Kansas State actually once though already this year. But TCU's national championship game. And who they play? They played Michigan. Look, guys, go back and watch this thing. Michigan this season was fantastic. That Ohio State game, if you busted in coverage, they whipped your ass. They did that. That happened. When Ohio State committed too many guys to run, they hit their ass. Here's the difference. On the outsides tonight, actually, TCU is pretty good. It was more of the inside and maybe on the slot they got killed. But how many times are we saying that Trey Hodges Tomlinson or Newton got beat? Not many. We weren't saying many times that those guys got beaten coverage, right? I thought they played was fantastic. And hey, I didn't take much TCU 7.5. I had it at 9.5 a lot of times. I did have some TCU money line. Right? I did have a little bit of that. I have to do it for the conference. But this performance was because TCU could do some different things. And once again, Joe Gillespie, like early in the game, guys, Michigan had 6 points at half. They have 45 in the game, sure. But like, because they had 6 points at half, that's what made the difference. And TCU's defense made the plays. And that's not new. We've been saying that all season. TCU's defense, not excellent, but playmakers, bet your ass. Bet your ass they had a lot of playmakers on that defense. And look, most 3-3-5s get their asses kicked against schools like Michigan, especially that offensive line, right? Against schools like Bama. We saw a great job from Bama last year against Cincinnati. We've seen Oklahoma a lot of times, whatever. And they don't play a ton of 3-3-5. They play a lot of 4-man front before. But like Alex Grinch too, you see what I'm saying? It takes the right group, right? The right coaching to get this thing absolutely done, right? That's absolutely what it takes. And so this group was ready and prepared for it. Send more questions if y'all want to. I see a lot of y'all are watching this thing right now. So what does this mean for the Big 12 conference? What does this mean as a whole? Significant. When we talk about like, what does this mean moving forward? Brett Yormark, the whole league, what does this mean? Like, TV deals. The reason why Fox opted in to the Big 12 was because they wanted how competitive the league was. All right. This is not that. This is beyond that. This is, you're outside of the league. You're punching ostensibly above your weight class in terms of recruiting. And then you get the job done. This is massive because the Big 12 and the ADs, I'll give these guys credit, man. Jamie Pollard, right? What are we seeing? I can't say getting his name off the top of my head. At Jeremiah Donati at TCU, Gene Taylor at Kansas State. These guys are absolutely crushing the football hires, crushing it. Don't forget Kirby Hocutt over at Texas Tech. I mean, besides TCU now, right? Who has more momentum in the guys? I was just talking about again. TCU's playing for a title. Holy hell, right? But who has more momentum besides TCU than Texas Tech? Jeremiah Donati, TCU crushing that. Kirby Hocutt, Texas Tech crushing that hire, right? So, these ADs in the Big 12 are hiring these awesome coaches. And these guys are showing what's possible at these schools that nobody wanted. Think back to when Texas and Oklahoma left. There were concerns about the future of the Big 12. There were thoughts about, Pac-12 could poach, right? Big 10 could Kansas, the Big 10. SEC, ACC could poach more if they wanted to do that. They didn't. And who was left over? A effing awesome group of coaches and ADs who have nailed these hires, who have hired an outside the box commissioner in Brett Yormark, who is doing a great job right now. But like, guys, from now on, when we talk about the Big 12, think about next year. Dave Aranda's been to a Big 12 championship. Why can't he go to a college football playoff championship game? Mike Gundy, why can't he go to a championship game? Gus Malzahn's already been there to a national championship game. Why can't these guys go there in this conference? Actually, I tossed UCF even in much more so with UCF, right? In Florida, crush it recruiting compared to most of the conference, right? UCF is, thank God they're in Florida. I mean, they're kicking their ass, and guess who's the coach guy? He's been there before. I love Gus Malzahn. So when you ask, yeah, he's a coach there, they're awesome, but can they make a CFP final? 5-7 team in 2021 is going to play for a championship now. That's what's happening in this league. And guess what? People said, well, they're sweating out games against West Virginia, against Texas Tech, against, 6-1 score games, and now 7-1 score games this year. They're sweating out those games. Guys, this is gigantic for the league. It's gigantic for the league. Sonny Dykes can coach his ass off. He can absolutely coach his ass off. He knows what he is doing. He absolutely, he's crushed this thing. Keep sending y'all's questions, right? Keep sending y'all's thing. Two pick sixes. So that goes to the point that we're saying about their defense, not great, but playmaking. Guys, that ball at D Winters was absolutely just hurled at him. Absolutely hurled. And then the earlier pick six too, that ball was read all the way. TCU had that thing covered wire to wire there. And originally it was a tackle for loss, but because it was a short throw, guy reads it, picks it off, goes the other way, touchdown. These guys have been so well coached up that they know, and here's the thing, like, unless they're completely outclassed to a crazy extent, and I'm not sure that's the case this year, then that's the chair, not me. Then they can compete and win these football games. They can, because they live in that space. You argue Kendrick Miller's balls of the balls of the line against K-State, and also they should have run Max Duggan. All right, that's totally there for them. So this, when it comes to what it means for our league, for our conference, for what it means the end of this entire exercise that we're doing right now, guys, this is everything. This is everything that we needed. Did they need it before? Not really sure they did. Not really sure they actually knew this. Has Sonny Dykes surpassed Lincoln Riley? Great question. Lincoln is a fantastic schematic coach. What you have to admit here is that, and this is to Sonny's credit, he's backed off the play calling. And so as somebody who's a Missouri graduate, let me tell you guys, the one thing I want Eli Drinkowitz to do is actually back off the play calling. I don't want him to call plays anymore. But Sonny, who is a offensive guy by nature, right? Hal Mummy talks about hiring him first important coaching job as a favor to Spike Dykes, obviously has some offensive influence, backs off play calling, gives it to Garrett, still has some input, but Garrett's a Broyles Award-winning coach, gives him the space and lets him do his thing. That this year has paid off times 1,000. And I think, to Lincoln's discredit, maybe trusting Alex Grinch too much, who I'm not really sure is that good of a coach, has hurt him a bit. Now, is he a fantastic play caller and excellent everything? Sure. And in some situations where maybe your team is not as old and well-rounded, leaving your team to its own devices and kind of being the laid-back guy could hurt you. Sure. Yes. But look, putting somebody over somebody else is kind of like not my game, whatever. I think they both have their ebbs and flows. Do I think Lincoln Riley makes a college ball playoff final, before he's done at USC? Sure. But right now, does Sonny Dykes have the leg up in that category? In much fewer tries? Yes. Yes, he does. You have to give him that credit. And that goes to what we've been saying this entire show, right? It's about who you hire. It is about how they handle things. It is about and look, guys, like I had no idea this offensively they could be like this. But Sonny Dykes let this thing roll. He never seemed panic. Go back to the Griffin Kell field goal. Never seemed to care that much. He just kind of has this thing like under, in the palm of his hand when it comes to how you get the job done and how coaching works. And as many guys as they pay a lot of money to now, it's a crazy thing to say. I'm not saying he'll ace this every single year, but the way he handles things in modern college football does work. Now, is it predicated on you nailing the coordinator hires? Yeah, it is a lot. But he did. So that's kind of what he gets. And look, I think Joey McGuire will do the same thing at Texas Tech. Maybe not this, maybe not, as well as this, but like that's what they have to do there. And I think he's nailed it so far, right? Tim DeRuyter and then also, Zach Kitley. So it's possible. Other places, not just TCU, at Baylor, right? At Oklahoma State, it's felt more possible at Oklahoma State than it has all these other schools. All right, wrapping up here. Last 5-10 minutes. Send any more questions y'all have. Send them in. Let's do this because we're all celebrating right now. Also, guys, New Year's Eve. Cheers. Raise a glass, guys and gals. Raise a glass. What do y'all have? Some White Claw right here. Put in the glass to be more friendly for the sponsors and whatnot. What about Pac-12? Somebody said, Chris Manella says, what about Pac-12? It's a fun league. I enjoy watching Pac-12 actually. And the QBs next year are going to be awesome. Michigan was cheated blank next year. You know what? Once again, I thought some calls went against Michigan in this game. I love to see the angle. I saw some angles on Twitter that made me think it was not a touchdown on that catch in the end zone. I thought it was initially. I saw some angles that said no, but if they're going to overturn that, you have to have definitive video evidence. And I guess they did to overturn that. There you go. And also, look, you have the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. You should be able to run that thing in from 1 yard out, all right, and get that thing done. So, as much as that like sucks, like you get the job, like, you gotta be able to get the ball in the end zone. On the later in the game, targeting, sure should have been targeting with still 25 seconds left. The hardball clock management at the end of the year, and keep sending y'all's questions. Once again, please subscribe, guys. We had a big year this year. Thank you all for doing that, but please subscribe to the channel. It really does help. Like the video. It helps a ton. It's really, it does a lot for us. I thought that call at the end of the game should have been targeting, but 25 seconds from there, when TCU makes all the stops they have to usually, and once again, I explained it earlier, I thought he was going down kind of almost head up. And because of the way he was spun, he put his head down, and it was not the head and neck area. It was actually the upper shoulder area. I've seen less be called targeting, but I'm not crying over the call because it didn't hit all the criteria that we always think it will, right? I don't think we always will. Excuse me. All right, guys. It's time for all of us to go enjoy the Georgia and Ohio State game. Make sure you all subscribe. Excuse me. Hiccuping, so y'all know it's time to leave. Subscribe, please, here on the on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LOBig12, at JoshNeighbors_. All right, guys. More shows coming. Probably have one more tomorrow, too. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.